I'm super excited to talk to Kate Moyle today. Kate, tell us exactly what you do and how you got there.
Yeah, so I am a psychosexual therapist and a psychosexologist, recently, very excitingly, an author. And I also host a podcast. And how I got there was a lot of hard work. It's taken a long time. So any career in psychotherapy, counseling, therapy takes a good amount of training, which happens over a period of time. And I don't think that's a bad thing. When you're working with people's mental health, mental well-being, you need to work through your own stuff, and you need to be able to know what it's like to feel challenged and to feel pushed and to have those difficult conversations. So I started by studying psychology, back when I was doing my A-levels at school and then at university. And I think I always knew I would be some kind of psychologist or psychotherapist. I don't think it was a surprise to anyone in my family. I've always been that kind of mini therapist, whether it's for other people or friends or family members. And I've worked with lots of different groups of people, and it kind of really segued from there, and it kind of just got nicher and nicher, the different modules I studied, the different types of psychology I studied. And I then trained initially as a psychosexual therapist. I then did my master's in relationship therapy, and then in 2020 did what is called the European Society of Sexual Medicine Psychosexologist qualification, which was in Prague. So happens kind of every couple of years in Europe, and it's where doctors and psychologists sit alongside each other, so do the same training and then a different type of exam. And then recently I just wrote my first book, which is called The Science of Sex, Every Question About Your Sex Life Answered. And that comes out on the 7th of September. So very soon, which is both terrifying and exciting.
Very exciting, Kate. Unbelievably exciting. So what is your main motivator? What was your motivator to write the book?
I think the book really felt like the missing piece of my therapy work, which is having these conversations with people behind a closed door. So you're working with people one-on-one or with them in a couple. They approach you as a therapist. You can't go out and find people to work with. And what I've noticed is that so many of the conversations I was having with people, there's a running theme. There are so many common threads. The story is different for every person, but the themes are consistent. Sometimes people say the same phrases over and over again, or people start telling you their story and you're like, I've heard this before. And there's just been so much in my work that's made me realize that if people were having these conversations outside the therapy room in a more healthy, open, questioning, normalizing way, less people would end up in the therapy room thinking that they're the only ones that need therapy. So that's, that feeling of isolation and aloneness is a huge part of this. And in 2020, in lockdown, I'd been toying with the idea of starting a podcast for a while based on that theme, and along with a million other creators, and particularly in this country, people launched a lockdown podcast. It's just in its 4th series at the moment, and the response I've had to that has been really positive. And then I got approached about the book by DK, who are the publishers, and it's part of a series of books called The Science of, and they said, we're missing the sex one, would you write it? And it felt like a way of me helping to kind of put the education that I would like for everybody out into the world that I think is missing or is not there or is not there in a comprehensive way, and in a non-judgmental kind of research-backed, statistic explaining, straightforward way, not an overly complicated therapy speak, not that is accessible for so many people. And a big part of that is wanting to change the conversation for the better. And I'm a parent. I see that I want that to happen for the generation behind, because the generation that I'm in, we're in our mid-30s, had pretty appalling sex education, and the generations before that even worse. And so we get that knockdown effect because every generation educates the next generation. And so there's an element of kind of needing to change something in that, particularly because the internet is now such a big part of our lives in a way that it wasn't before.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes wonder, has it gotten better? Because, we seem to have this porn situation and teenagers or, young adults thinking this is normal. I sometimes think it's been completely warped. And I think the sex education hasn't gotten any better, and schools are still sort of unable to really tackle it.
I think one of the biggest things we have is the gap. And one of the chapters actually of the book is called The Sex Gaps, because there are all these gaps, mostly between expectation and reality. Pornography is one part of that, but not all pornography is created equally. And porn literacy is a big thing that lots of people are pushing at the moment, which is that kind of educational literary side of it, understanding that this is something that was designed to be, the word for it is adult entertainment, not sex education. It was created with the design to be arousing, not designed to be an educational material. But because of the gap that we see with solid education and solid educational materials, what a lot of people have done, and particularly younger people, is they go to find the answers themselves, and they type the word sex into Google, and the first thing they're going to find is that. So I think that it's about us resourcing ourselves, and also as parents resourcing ourselves to know how to have these conversations in a positive and under a positive way, but understanding that they can be difficult and they can be awkward, and also that's fine.
Yeah.
That we don't have to know everything and get it perfectly right. Sex is messy, and the conversations we can expect to be messy kind of are setting us up. And one of the things we're talking about, and I think the book is for, is sex education across the lifetime. So anyone at any age can get themselves the education that they want, even if they didn't feel they had it at the start.
Yeah, so I think you're doing a real service to society, Kate, because really we are lacking it big time. And also in all the different phases of our life, right? We've been talking about, and finally we can talk about perimenopause and menopause, but we're still not really going to the nitty-gritty changes and what happens and how sex changes and how that changes a couple, etc., pp, and all the repercussions. So I think it's hugely important. Kate, what do you think are your top qualities in what you do?
I think I'm curious. I think that is I think you can't be a therapist and not be curious. And there's something when you're working in the room with people that you have to explore. I've often described my job a bit like creative problem solving, because psychosexual therapy particularly can be quite solution focused. So I think that that's a really key component of unpacking what's going on for people. I think another thing is being able to be challenged. I always invite everyone I'm working with to challenge me. I say, if you think I'm going in the wrong direction, or you think I'm barking up the wrong tree, then tell me, we talk about it. There's an openness. I always describe therapy that we're working together, we're co-working on what's going on. And I think I'm open to learning. I never think that I'm the smartest person in the room or the person who knows it all. I treat everything as a learning experience, and every person I work with teaches me something different. And I think when you think that you know it all, it's probably linked to the curiosity point, isn't it? I think that then you stop being curious. And I think there's something about always positioning yourself in the place which is, there's more to learn, or I don't know it all. I can be educated and competent, and I can feel like I know a lot, but never assuming that we have all the answers or that we know it all.
Yeah, I mean, Kate, from where I sit, you must be you are very brave and courageous, because you are not afraid to go to places that are difficult and still sort of difficult in this day and age. So I think I want to point that out, because from where we are sitting, that is still an uncomfortable subject. And I think it continues being uncomfortable, and our children also think it's uncomfortable, right? So there is a lot of work to be done, and we're so grateful that you're doing this work. Kate, what tips would you have around sexual well-being for younger women listening?
I think the first one probably ties into what I just said, which is about, if you feel like you didn't get the education you wanted, or you feel like you don't know enough, go and get that information. There are now amazing therapists and experts. Like, so there are solid resources now. There are TED Talks, there are podcasts, and go and get that knowledge yourself so that you feel equipped, because most of the problems that people have around sex are born out of some kind of missing information or myths, and from that we develop a lack of confidence, a lack of feeling comfortable, a lack of understanding ourselves, a lack of understanding our bodies or how they work. We can create anxieties. I can pretty much connect almost everybody that I've worked with 1, feelings of shame, 2, feelings of isolation, 3, feelings of not knowing enough. And so that is something that you can go out and you can do and you can get for yourself. And so being an advocate for yourself in that way. And one of the things I talk about is sex education across the lifetime. It doesn't matter if you're, picking up the book at 18 or 80, it can help you. And part of that is something that we talk about as kind of body knowledge. So getting to know your body. And that is not just about your genitals and the parts of the body normally associated with sex. It's about how you feel about sensation, how you feel about being touched kind of from head to toe. Are there certain areas of your body that don't make you feel comfortable? Is it about knowing what they are so you can inform a partner? But also knowing what you like equips you to feel more, firstly, comfortable, secondly, confident. And then you can communicate that to a partner in scenarios. So saying, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And again, it takes a level of that trying to work it out in the moment, which can mean that you're very in your head and distracted when it comes to sex, either solo or partnered. And we're trying to make it this kind of safe, comfortable and fun place without the worries. So that's the kind of physical side of it, because we know particularly when it comes to sex that there are two parts. One is what we call, it sounds very clinical, but appropriate sexual stimulation, so the type of touch that feels good for you, and the other bit is your mind and what's going on for you psychologically, which is why as a psychosexual therapist all of my work is approached from a bio-psychosocial model, so biology, psychology, and the social kind of cultural world that we're living in.
Amazing, Kate. And you also work with LELO, right? And you consult them. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, so they are a leading luxury sex toy brand, and I'm their UK sex expert. So their toys and products have won design awards. They are made from the highest kind of grade silicone. So they have got so many products which are designed for both women, men, and all bodies, and for couples. So basically with the intention of helping people to bring more pleasure and satisfaction into their lives.
Really amazing. Kate, what are you most proud of to date?
I think I'm pretty proud of the book, actually. It's just about to come out. It's been written in under a year. And I feel like it's quite a nerve-wracking thing, putting a book into the world, particularly about a topic like sex. So it feels both hard because I could have just hidden, not done it, or kind of kept it I suppose hidden from the world, or not out there. But I feel like it's, there's a level of excitement and anxiety that goes with putting something like that out. But I think I am really proud of that. And the way that I manage my life, having young kids, is I'm my own boss and I run my own business. And I think that being able to do that in a way which means I can both parent and have my career is probably the thing that I'm most proud of, because it is a juggle and it's really, really hard sometimes. But I've worked out that for now, the balance, is favored in one direction more than the other, but it changes. And, every year things change. And I try and keep it this fluid, kind of free moving beast, I suppose, but free machine is probably a better word. But I think that's the thing that personally I feel proud of, is that I can currently do both. But I'm lucky, and I say this all the time to people, I'm lucky I have a career that can be flexible, and that is more fluid, and you are in charge of it yourself, and not all jobs offer that. So that's also also a privilege.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for saying it, because it needs to be said more, and we need to think about this a lot more than what we do right now. And there are many things that we need to change from a government and policy point of view. Kate, what are your plans, your goals, any dreams you have for your future?
The dreams, I always said I wanted to write a book and do a doctorate. So the book is done. I would love to do a doctorate. It won't be immediately. But I'm currently doing a diploma in gender sexual relationship diversity therapy. So that's for the next year. And I always say to myself, it's one project at a time. So that will be for now. But, on the at some point future horizon, a doctorate would be what I would love to do. That would be a real personal achievement.
Amazing, Kate. Thank you for this really inspiring conversation.
Thank you.